Hello everyone, this is Maria Mumu. Today I stand in front of all of you guys not as a victim. My father was asked for custody. He said, "What would I do with a girl child?" And this morning, among all the mornings in my life, should be his answer that what do you do with a girl child? Right? Outlier, away from what's normal, always different. That's how I was labeled, always. And I always wanted to fit in. I wanted to be a part of that normalcy. I just wanted to be normal. When I was in my school, college, right here, just wanted to be a part of that normalcy. And while I was trying to fit in to all of this, I don't really know what I'm going with this because there isn't any structure to begin with, right? 1 minute I was in London, another minute I was living with sex workers in a brothel, another minute I was working in a departmental store selling yogurts, another minute I was this Miss Universe top 4, this founding president of Moshal Mental Health, this Dyna Award holder, and another minute I'm talking in front of you guys giving my TED talk in one of the best universities in Bangladesh. So there isn't really a structure. There isn't really a structure to begin with. I guess if I look back, it all started when my mom and dad got separated when I was 3 years old, and I got thrown away from that normalcy you call that family structure, right? We have that pillar, 3 pillar. We are middle of it. So I was thrown away from that normalcy. So I think that's when it all started. Life started feeling like a leaf, a water drop on the leaf, always unstable, always uncertain, constantly moving. When I was supposed to play with dolls, I was fighting through it. And while I battled through all of it, in 2017, when I was in class 9, when studying in a beautiful college, I was in class 9, and I started having this intense stomach pain over here. Constantly, it would pain. Doctor said it was ulcer, but no medication would fix it. I tried again and again. I was medicated high doses, but nothing would fix it. It would just constantly pain. I started lacking in my studies slowly. I couldn't work because I wanted to support my mom since I was young, so I started working when I was 12 years old. So I couldn't work, I couldn't study, I started lacking behind, and everybody was questioning, what is wrong with you? Why can't you do this? Ulcer is not a big deal. It's a very common disease. It happens to a lot of people. It's not supposed to affect you that much. But it was affecting me a lot more than a normal disease does. And then our pre-test came, and I failed in all of them. I was a student of Rajuk College. How many of you guys are here and from Rajuk College? Yeah? No? Very less? So yeah, I failed, all of them. So when I failed, that belief that, oh, you're not good enough, that belief that maybe I don't really belong here, everything that everybody was questioning, I started questioning myself too. And maybe, Maria, you're not really good enough to be there. So I felt like maybe this is an end. I failed. I'm not going to get out from this. I'm lacking behind physically. I'm not, my family, everything's falling apart. I felt like everything was crumbling. And this is the time I started isolating myself. I stopped eating, I stopped sleeping, I stopped talking to anybody. I remember distinctly, for 7 days straight, I did not get out of my room. I did not eat, did not sleep. For 7 days, I was just inside my room. It didn't do anything. And this is the time when I started seeing things. 3 scenarios in particular. And I was always in this fight or flight mode, in this threatened position. I felt like somebody's going to kill me. Somebody's going to hurt me. Constantly in this fear that somebody's going to kill me, somebody's going to kill me. And I remember And I'll always remember this date. This is 29th July 2017. That's when I had my first panic attack. I thought the people who wanted to kill me, they got me. I fell down on the ground and I couldn't breathe. Everything from my throat up was shrinking down. Couldn't scream, couldn't breathe. I couldn't ask for help. I was just there shivering. And I think around this time I passed out or I blacked out, fainted. As soon as I got to my senses, I became so afraid of myself. I became so afraid of myself that I am going to do something wrong. So I called this big brother of mine. I said, Bhaiya, I start dreaming. This is it. I think this is not a physical issue. Doctors said this is not a physical issue. Get me help. Get me somebody to talk to. I don't know what's wrong with me. I know this is not a physical issue. Get me somebody to talk to. I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna do something very wrong. So luckily, there was somebody who was studying in Maryland University in psychology. He was visiting Bangladesh, and I sat down with him, talked about my life story for 5 hours. He made my vision a lot more clear. He said, Maria, what it seems like that because you weren't sleeping, and because when you don't sleep, your nightmares or your dreams, they were coming as a visual hallucination. And you indeed had a panic attack. And maybe you have deeper issues. And the person who was beating you was you. And that's after on later down the line, I did got officially get diagnosed with anxiety and depression, clinical depression and anxiety. And why the medication wasn't working, because this is called somatopharmasis, when your mental health issues get so bad that medication doesn't work, you physically start reacting to it. That was a chronic pain that happened. It wasn't ulcer, it was mental health. And when all of these results were coming in front of me, I was like, wait a minute, I was standing in front of the biggest question of my life, that if these issues can have a potential to make me want to kill myself, then why don't we know about this? Why don't our teachers know about this? Why don't we have a subject on this in school? What's going wrong? And I started looking for answers, and I started slowly taking therapy, getting better. Later on, after that year, this junior of mine, while I was in college, around exactly the time of pretest, jumped from the staircase and she committed suicide. And she also failed in her tests. And after a few months, this friend of mine, he hung himself, he committed suicide. Trajectories were, again, same. And around this time, I started asking myself, maybe there's something that we're not seeing. Maybe I was lucky enough to find somebody to talk to, or just maybe I'm here because of a reason. I literally felt like both of them were screaming at the back of my head, trying to tell me something. Screaming at the back of my head, just trying to tell me something. And I became very angry, trying to look for answers, and I digged into more and more. And I found that staggering numbers, 0.075% budget allocation that's what we had. That's what we have for mental health. For 260,000 people, we have one psychologist. Can you guys believe that? There's more than 10,000 people, now the number's more, who commit suicide every year. And these numbers, I was like, I'm not the only person who is going through this. And this change needs to happen. It needs to happen sooner. And as soon as all of these came to light, I quit college. I didn't want to study there anymore because it wasn't giving me the education I wanted it to. I enrolled into A-levels, took psychology as my main subject, started studying more and more about it. And in 2019, when I had the opportunity, I was enrolled for Miss Universe Bangladesh. I made sure I utilized this platform to the best of its ability to shed light to this platform. So I did. As soon as I became fourth, I made sure that I am shedding light to this sector. And as soon as I got out, we started building a team. My team is here. And we started building a team. And in 2020, 7th of February, Moshal was born with 300 students and parents all around Bangladesh, with 2 ministers, 2 psychologists, where we talked about suicidal ideation and parenting styles. And up until this day, Moshal has given more than 2,000 sessions. We have held more than 16 awareness-based campaigns. We are the first and the youngest mental health organization to win the Diana Award. And of course, an amazing team that's moving only forward. You know, when I look back at it and I say, Maria, why did you start? Where did you start? And I vision myself when I was standing up in front of my college with a huge placard in my hand after my junior died. And I was angry. I was red, shaking that this needs to change. This needs to change. There needs to be a change. It's not an individual issue. It's not. It's a global issue. It's an institutional issue. It's a societal issue. The normalcy that I always craved within me, I found it in my individuality. We don't have to find normal. We just have to find the best version of ourselves, and that does not have to be normal. This is not a survival story. Everything that I told you guys right now, this is not a winning story, but this is a survival story. There's billions of people who need our help, and there's centuries of work left for us to do in the mental health sector. But we begin today, this day. Thank you so much.